Let's talk community. Specifically, let's talk about supporting local businesses and tracking how that support definitely benefits your immediate geographic community, and how supporting other businesses may or may not support your community. And listen, I get it. Big companies offer a lot of convenience, and I want my conveniences wherever I go. If I go to a national coffee chain, then I want that experience to be the same no matter which location I walk into. But I also know that it's the local coffee shop that's supporting the school PTA, giving scholarships to local kids, having conversations with local representatives, and who actually care about making sure that the communities we all live in are thriving. Our conversation today is with local tattoo shop owner Mike Welch of Nokomis Tattoo. He shares a bit about his unlikely journey from being a well-known graffiti artist with warrants out for his arrest to a business owner and a community leader. Hey everybody, welcome to Bottomless Coffee. I am Jerome. I am well caffeinated this morning. I want to start off with a special thanks to our Patreon community members. You keep us going and you keep us upping the quality of these podcasts, which I certainly appreciate. Today we're going to talk about why local businesses matter. Now this is kind of an intersection with community. When do you have community, you have development, and what that development looks like is really impactful on the community. Okay. Now, just for your personal reference for context, I do come from a family where my mother owned a small business. Owning a small business is not easy. There are a lot of early mornings. There are a lot of late nights. But a lot of the support that you get as a small business owner comes from those people who are in your immediate geographic area. Now, I say that, I suppose these days, I'm old. Okay, everybody. At this point, I'm old. So in the past,
you don't look it though.
In the past, certainly it would have been in that immediate geographic area. Now we've got online communities like our own, where you can draw support from wherever. Now, you just heard Mike jump in. Mike is our guest today. He is a community leader in my neighborhood, which means he's also my neighbor. What's up, Mike? How are you doing?
I'm good, Jerome. You got me up. You got a tattooer up at 9 a.m. That's a very impressive feat. So
the draw of the podcast is strong.
Yeah.
Now, you are also you're a leader in the community, but you're also a business owner. You own a tattoo. Are they still called tattoo parlors, or they're called tattoo shops?
It depends on what. Like tattooing has marketing just like everything else, and some people will want to call it a tattoo parlor. Some people will call it a tattoo studio. Sometimes it'll be like private only studio and all this other stuff. But I come from a situation from my background in tattooing that I work at a tattoo shop. I'm a walk-in tattooer. Been doing it 17 years, and I'll probably be a walk-in artist for another 17. So it's a tattoo shop.
Awesome. And it's Nokomis Tattoo.
Yep. Grandma tattoo, actually.
Grandma tattoo?
Nokomis means, I believe it's in Ojibwe. Nokomis is the grandmother for Hiawatha. So
that's cool.
Yeah, so one day we'll use that and do a thing that says grandma tattoo. So
I mean, I don't hate it.
Well, it's kind of cool because our community is, Nokomis, but it's actually grandma.
Thank you. I think you're informing a lot of people. I should let you know the audience for us is not just Minnesota. 20% of the people who listen are in India.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so dope.
So you're educating a lot of people on Ojibwe today. Now, very quickly, are your pronouns he and him?
Yep. So.
Okay. And how did you get into tattooing?
So like I was saying before, I was a graffiti writer for a long time, and then Long story short, I had caught my third case in Minneapolis. And I was looking at 6 months for a probation violation. So I decided that I was going to leave and run from the law, and I did.
Oh,
and
okay.
yeah, so I come from that background.
Sure.
But then I wanted to become a nationally known graffiti writer. I achieved those goals. And once I achieved those goals, I wanted to do something else. And luckily, through my connections with graffiti, one of my friends was willing to vouch for me.
Mhm.
I was living in Louisville, Kentucky at the time, but I had to move to Erie, Pennsylvania, which is 7 hours from there. It's a brutal climate. They get about twice as much snow as Minnesota, or like the Twin
really?
Cities.
Yes.
And I gave up everything to tattoo, and I apprenticed at Ink Assassins. And then under Dave Steele, and I worked there for 5 years. So that's how I got into tattooing. I had to sacrifice a lot. I had to step away from my graffiti completely, and I feel like I've done well, and I'm feel very blessed because I know a lot of other graffiti writers that do not have the experience that I have, and a lot of them, graffiti was the start of their
Mhm.
criminal life, and it jumped off worse than that. And I don't say for a second that I'm an angel by any means or whatever.
Oh, I don't say that about you either.
Yeah, I don't think anybody does. But it's like, because of those experiences, like I was able to transition into being a tattoo artist, and I feel really lucky where some of my friends, they went to jail, they went to prison, and
Yeah.
now they're like, they've got that felony on their record, they can't find a job, and mix in drug addictions and stuff like that. So I feel really, really, really blessed that I'm in this situation and not those. And I definitely feel for them, because there's no reason I shouldn't be, because
Mhm.
of all my background and stuff like that, having like coming from a poor situation, parents who were involved in drugs, lightweight or whatever, but they were bikers. Like, I should be one of those individuals, but for whatever reason, I'm that
Mhm.
sliver, that percentage of like two parents that come from a really kind of different, kind of messed up background. There's
Yeah.
that 2% that like are successful, and the other 98 end up, not being successful in life or whatever, and good contributors to society. So I feel that I'm lucky with that, but
Well,
I feel blessed.
I think I agree. There's certainly luck at play. But one of the reasons that we started this podcast is because we want people to understand that no matter where they are in their lives, they can make choices that change their situation personally and change their communities. And so while luck was certainly part of your story, you also, like you said, left everything to make a different choice and go in a different direction, and that at least contributed to where you are now. Because it's not just that you are a business owner, you're also using that business space to support your community. You've got pet rescues that happen in the back of the shop. I've been there. I should have. I have the poster for your Toys for Tots event. I'll try. Maybe I'll put it on the website. It's Mike in like a Santa hat and a bunch of toys.
Well, but even that poster, like, using the connections that you have in your life in a positive way
Mhm.
is a blessing. So like how that
Mhm.
poster even came along is like, so the person who designed that he's a graffiti artist, street artist, locally Biafra. He looked up to my graffiti somewhat, and we became friends through that.
Yeah.
And now he does all these posters for us and stuff. I don't know how to do that, and he does that for free because he knows that it's like community kind of stuff. So it all like kind of comes around and goes around. It's really, really cool. And there's like there's the Toys for Tots thing. I've been doing that for years, and then I definitely implemented here. Unfortunately, we couldn't do it in 2020 because my wife and I got COVID right before it, so
Sure.
it kind of sucked. But next year we'll have it in a big way, and like the pet rescue stuff. We started the bilingual library,
Yeah.
blood drives. The business association has an outdoor concert. They're going to have it hopefully this year again. We give 5% of our profits to not 5% of our profits go to like nonprofits, like charities and businesses and people in need. I mean, we've been really, really lucky with that too, because I mean, like, it's not just about like helping the community, you help out your clients too. Like one
Mhm.
of our clients will remain unnamed. Like, he was going through a pretty bad dispute with his baby's, mother. And I mean, it was like really, really brutal. Like he went there to pick them up once, and the house was trashed, and she had some drug addiction issues and stuff like that. And he was in a really, really bad place. So we were able to take money that month because I knew he had to like get out of a situation, get an apartment for him and his kids. So we were able to give some money to that, and then there was like another client at a house fire we were able to give to that. So it's like, because of these things, and like, it's like, since I'm so cheap, like, and I just put, since I'm so cheap and I put money in the bank, it's like, well, why don't we take some of that money? And I live very minimalistically. I try to, and it's like, I know we share that, it's like we're in that situation where it's like, all right, maybe we can take this 5% and put it towards other things instead of just letting it, collect interest in the bank. So that's cool.
Okay, so I heard a couple of different things.
Throwing it all at you once.
Well, it's all right. It's all right. It's this is my job here on Bottomless Coffee. So you mentioned several almost different relationships, right? And the form of those relationships, or the person on the other side of those relationships, kind of seems to change. So you've got individual relationships that you support. People coming into the shop and they're having certain circumstances, and you see an opportunity where you can assist, and so you step up and you do that. You've also got these nonprofit associations, like the Toys for Tots, like whoever is bringing in the dogs to the back of the shop or what have you. And then you've got these business associations as well, like the Nokomis East Business Association. And at some point, I don't know, something must have triggered in you to where you thought, okay, I need to be more involved in the community or what have you, because you kind of took us on a little bit of your journey to, was it Kentucky first?
Like I went from
Pennsylvania.
No, I mean, like, I've lived all over.
All over
like,
the place.
Okay. Yeah, because like the beauty of it, Jerome, is like when you catch one case and you run from the law, then you feel much more emboldened to do the same thing in another city. So so like once like, and when I was like writing graffiti, I took it like, I don't want people to think that it was like innocent, like, oh, he was just writing his name. I mean, maybe a little bit, but what it was for me is like, I really like to do like intense, very, very intense things in places they don't belong. So it'd be like on the highway, I'd be doing something that would be like 6-7 colors and really trying to work on my letter structure and stuff, because that is a strong point in graffiti, is like the letters. So it's like, but that also brings a higher chance of a probability of getting arrested and busted. So like I went from Kentucky to Columbus, Ohio, back to Kentucky, Detroit for a few months, back to Kentucky, Erie, Pennsylvania. That's when I started my apprenticeship. And then, I was accustomed to moving around, so I did that a little bit too. So then I went down and lived in where you're from, Georgia, for a few months. Then I lived in Jacksonville, Florida for 6 months, which I have to tell people, if you want to see the creme de la creme of the most stuff you will ever see.
We're going to beep that.
Whatever, like, I mean, hey, I come from that environment, so it's like, I can call it, because I mean, like, that's what the environment I grew up in. And then when I moved down to Jacksonville, I was like, wow, like, there's people who they wrestle alligators down here, and they're fun, alligators in their spare time, and like all this other stuff. But it was like really eye-opening, because I was like, hey, maybe like, maybe it wasn't so bad the way I grew up, like, right. So but then and then I went from there, I went back to Erie, and then I bounced around a little bit more, and then I came back to Minnesota. So I've lived all over.
Okay, well, let me ask it a different way. When was your first like community event, if you can recall? Like, did you start out hosting community events, or was there a point where you like helped someone else put one on?
I actually took notes on this, so
okay,
I
great.
see you fishing. So there's 2 events in the beginning of my tattoo career that I was involved in, that I was very, very lucky to be involved in, and then since those two things happened, I was like, I really want to have a space where I have like tattooing, and then I can actually do things to give back to the community. So when my wife and I bought this building, there's half of it that's the tattooing stuff, but then there's a back half that's like that we could use for community stuff that we're not going to do tattooing back there at all. And that's how we can have the dog rescue stuff and not have a health code violation and all this other stuff.
Yeah,
But to
lovely.
answer, well, because that had to be like one of the biggest concerns, right away when we opened. I had to talk to our health inspector, Kathy Loudon. At the time, she's since retired, and I had a wonderful relationship with her. She's always been super awesome, so she like walked us through the process and stuff. But to answer to zig and zag or whatever through this, how it all came about is there was like an art show in Erie that me and two other artists did, and we raised tons of money. I think it was a few thousand. We raised for a battered women's shelter. I don't know if that's the proper way to put that, but I Googled it last night because I didn't want to like offend anybody. But yeah, so there was that part, and that was really, really cool. And I think before that, though, there was and this is still when I was in Pennsylvania, one of my friends, Katie Sutherland, she's probably my biggest inspiration still in tattooing. She lived in all these places, got really amazing at tattooing, and then moved back to Iowa, in the middle of nowhere, Iowa. And she was like, I'm just going to tattoo working class people. And like she would, but the library in her town, the Bush Cuts, we're going to close that library down. That was going to be a wrap. So she hit me up and it's like, will you come down? Will you fly out and come down and work for a week with me? And then one of those days we're going to donate all the money to the library, and hopefully we can save it. And I was like, yeah, I'm about it. So we did that because I always liked working with Katie. It was always awesome when I got to work with her in guest spots and stuff. And if I remember right, we saved that library. So that was really cool. So it's like those two things were like, all right, I want to go deeper into this down the road, but I need to make sure I have the space and do it right. And I've done a little bit of community stuff before at my old shop, but like with Nokomis Tattoo, it's like, all right, we have the space, we have the parking, we have all these different things. We're going to go all in. So like, that's how that happened, So it's like, that's where it really came together. And then there was one other thing too. There's an amazing artist activist named Phil America that I've been really, really good friends with. And he, like 5 years ago, all the stuff he was doing was just like amazing stuff. Like he Nike shoes gave him a bunch of shoes and he cut them up and he made a flag out of them. He's done that a bunch of times. He lived in a Bangkok slum for 3 months and documented it. But I was like, Phil, you come up with all these ideas. Like, how do you come up with them? And he's like he really should be credited for a lot of this stuff, because he was like, just sat me down and he's like, Mike, every time I have an idea, I text it to myself or I put it in my notes, and then I go back to it and then I pick out the best ones. And that's what I've done in the last like 3 years. And it's like all because of Phil, because he told me that. And I was like, oh, because I'll have ideas and I'll just let them float into the ether. But now for the last 3 years, I'll text them to myself if I'm driving or whatever. I'll just be like, hey, Siri, and then, or like I'll put them in my notepad on my phone. So, yeah. So that's where a lot of this stuff comes. Yeah. Phil's awesome. Like, he's like his stuff lately doesn't like just like blow me away like the stuff he was doing 5 years ago. But I mean, like, but he's just like an amazing individual and he's great. So
this is really interesting in general, but it's also interesting to me personally because I've directly benefited from where you are in your community mindset and in your with your physical space. People, everyone, if you go to YouTube, you can probably find my very first like political event. It was a campaign kickoff, and it just looks like I'm in like a warehouse room or something. It's upgraded now, but that is actually Mike's event space that we're referring to. And what I'm kind of hearing is that earlier on in your above ground economy professional career, right, instead of the underground economy, you were exposed to some community benefits, and you saw the difference that those kind of events make in like the hyper local area.
Mhm.
Like you can literally save a library. You can literally help women who are being abused through these events. And then someone said, you know, you have a good idea, write it down. And you say you did that. As a result, when we met through the Nokomis Neighborhood Association, we established a relationship. I was like, this guy is legit. He is doing like so much stuff. And when I needed a space, you happened to have a space available because of the way things lined up. So I think that's really wonderful.
Yeah, it was like, and that was like an exciting time for us when you did announce it, because it's one of those things where, with politics being hyper polarized right now,
Sure. Yeah.
me as a business owner, years ago, I learned a lesson. Like, it wasn't even that long ago, 3 years ago, one of my clients wanted me to do a Second Amendment tattoo on him. And he thought I was going to be against it because I used to post a lot of stuff um, when I was like more liberal leaning. Lately, I've become more of a centralist. A lot of the reason why is because I haven't been happy with both of the parties.
Sure.
But there's still people I really, really like, like left leaning, especially like locally and like nationally, but that's a whole nother story. But but yeah, it's like, but it was like, now the real challenge that I have as a business owner is I don't want to offend anybody on either side. So everything has to be like pitched on the middle in a centralist way and hope that I offend the least amount of people. So with yours, it was a challenge because I was like, all right, I want to back Jerome with this. I really love what he wants to do with the Hope Grant, because I've known a bunch of my friends who have graduated from the Hope Grant. A matter of fact, one of them is a graffiti writer too. So, but and I saw how it bettered his life, and I was like, we got to bring this here. Jerome wants to bring this here, so like I'm gonna back him whatever I can. So, but then how do you pitch that to the public where it's like, oh, I'm not siding with the liberals on this, that, the other thing. And then because of your backing of the Hope Grant, and also it being like something that's instituted in Tennessee and Georgia, which are more conservative areas generally until recent elections. So it was like, that was a challenge, but it was awesome because it was like, I'm backing this individual because I back education. Education is like something that's near and dear to my heart, not just because my wife is an educator and a teacher, and I get great health insurance from that, but also I'm a firm believer that when it comes to like anything, when it comes to education, it always will benefit people, and I've seen people turn their life around because they went to tech school and got a trade. I've seen people have a different perspective on like abortion, guns, like all types of things, because they took it upon themselves to be educated about those things. So with yours, it was like really easy to be like, he's backing this education. This isn't going to cost the taxpayers anything at all. The money's going to come from the lottery, and we can have people go to school for 4 years for free, just like in Tennessee and Georgia, for all practical purposes. Why don't we want to back this? And it was funny because and I never told you, I think, but there was like so many conservative clients of mine that I tattoo that like they saw that or they commented on it and they were like, that's awesome. Why don't we have that here? So it's like that. Nice. Yeah. So it was really, really cool. And I'm like very proud that we were able to announce that, announce your campaign from here. And I just hope that it keeps going in that direction, because I think I would be more happy with people like you being in political, being in an appointed position like that and voted in, than some of the other people. So,
well, I didn't intend to make a political commercial today, Mike, but I'll just remember to save that one later.
Oh, nice. Nice. That's awesome. So,
well, let's take a quick coffee break, and then we'll be right back. All right, we are back with Mike Welch of Nokomis Tattoo, Grandma's Tattoo Shop. And we're talking about local business and community. And I'm really interested in the difference that local businesses make in a community. And I'm wondering if you've seen or can highlight examples of what communities without strong local businesses, without supported businesses look like. Because what, like, particularly in our neighborhood, we try, I know, like, collectively we talk about supporting our local businesses in the way that they should be supported. But I don't know if we're able to really articulate what our community would be like without our local businesses. And so I'm curious if you've got some insights there.
Oh, I have insights and plenty of opinions on this. And if you think this is only going to be 10 minutes, you're dreaming. So,
Okay,
but I'm going to try to keep it small. So there's like one thing I really want to touch on is like here locally, and you've heard me talk about this before. I've tattooed all over the nation. I have. I've been blessed with that. And Nokomis, what's different about Nokomis, especially Nokomis East, but like Nokomis in general, from what I've seen, is like other communities that I've tattooed in, typically working class people get pushed out as the values of the homes go up. It just is like a fact, and it becomes unsustainable to them, and they move somewhere else. That hasn't happened in Nokomis. Like I tattoo like a lot of people who've been here, multi-generational families that have been here for decades. Like there's one family I tattoo, and they're awesome. They're really, really cool. Tattoo guy, he's been here for 60 years. Wow. His daughter has been here for 40. And I tattooed both of them and 3 of his grandkids, and they all live in this area. And that's just something you don't see too often. So I feel really blessed that I work in a place that's like a nice thriving community, but it's also has its strong working class roots, because that is where I came from. Now locally, what we see here that I don't think we see as many places, or at least I haven't seen it firsthand, but it might have just been something I neglected, where you have like, and I was wearing the hoodie before, but it got too hot. I really wanted to wear it. But the workshop, which is like a pottery place, Jenny owns it. She lives literally 2 miles north. Right next to her is Jeff Johnson. He runs Design Replace. He literally lives like, I live 8 blocks from here, and he lives 8 blocks north of me. And I can literally go down every one of the businesses that like they either live here in the neighborhood or really, really close. You know, it's like John and Nancy from Berry Sweet Kitchen. They just live in Bloomington, which is like, you know, literally just a few minutes down the road. So what's cool about that stuff though, is like when you go to like Grande Sunrise and you're buying stuff from that family that works there, it's going right into their pocket, and it's not going anywhere else. And I think that's, and I mean, they live locally too. They live right in Invergrove Heights or South St. Paul. I mean, it's like right there. They're just a few exits off of 62. So I mean, it's like, that's where I think it's really important in our community, where we can see like so many people live in this neighborhood or really close to here, and then they own businesses here. And in Nokomis, especially Nokomis East, if you have a business here, you more than likely didn't fall into it. Like you wanted to be in this area, since it's kind of a little bit off the beaten path. The struggles though that we go through is like, we don't have, like a lot of the money backing that like big companies have. And when we do something, no one's going to help us typically, unless you can maybe get a grant or something for like a Doug and Amy. They got a really cool grant to redo their parking lot in an environmental way at Bull's Horn, which is just 4 or 5 blocks north. But besides that kind of stuff, you just don't get it. You just don't get that kind of stuff. So those struggles, you're like really, really on your own. And I mean, those are the struggles that, and like also just like, we don't have like a large, like a large company. They can have 12 people in a room coming and pitching ideas and this, that, the other thing, literally, and like run it through the grinder and all this other stuff, and come up with like something that's so polished that's going to hit all these people, and they can slap their logo on everything and this, that, the other thing. Those things we don't have. We don't have like it's the marketing, the PR person, advertising for Nokomis Tattoo is right here. This is it. This, it's like, and coming up with those things. And I'm really lucky that I have a great staff. you know, like I have a really, really good staff that like they get a lot of stuff done for me, and it's really, really hard for me to let go and let them do stuff. I'm trying to get better about that, but I'm really, really lucky that I have people like that. And you know, so we do have those so many of those struggles, and like, you know, hiring and all that stuff. So I mean, it just goes there's a lot more struggles, I think, with small businesses and all those things. But then there's the other flip side of that, is like the rewards that we have. You know, it's like, I mean, like the ones that I said earlier, you know, it's like, you know, like helping clients when they're in a time of need and a time of crisis. So, and it's like we have that relationship with them where like, let's say Target or whatever, which is pretty, for all practical purposes, they're a good corporation, you know, or one of the better ones, I would say. And their 5% idea, we stole that from them, you know. Like, yeah, that's where I got that idea originally. But it's like, we can see the direct effect, you know, where it's like we have this relationship with people, and it's like Amy and Doug, when they were getting a new parking lot, you know, that I was talking about, we like Nokomis Tattoo donated to that, you know, because it's like we care about, like, you know, we care about the runoff that's happening, you know, that's going into the creek, and how that's polluting, you know, the water.
So
So
you're touching on, well, again, you're touching on 100 things, but the one of the first things relating to what it means when you're supporting a local business in the community. The owners of those businesses and the families of those businesses are often in that community. So you're keeping money in the community when you're supporting your local business. Whereas when you're supporting some of these larger ones, the money is going out of the community, either to investors or to all this over these different levels of overhead or what have you. And that model with these larger companies can be really successful in terms of marketing and in terms of leveraging that money to support, you know, shops that are failing or what have you. But that's literally your money going to support, you know, Texas. Like Minnesota money supporting Texas, Minnesota money supporting California or something. Whereas here, we eat local, we get our tattoos local or what have you. Then when, just use your example before, when the library is facing a crisis, then we're like, oh, that's our library, right? So I can leverage my business to support my library. Whereas with the larger company, they might not even know that the library is having a crisis until, if ever, right? They might just never know.
well, I mean, like, I mean, it's one of those things where you pick your battles too. I mean, like right now, one of the biggest struggles that we're having with, you know, tattooing is just finding nitrile gloves, and that's like, we need that, you know. So it's like, we, you know, like, I have to get nitrile gloves, and unfortunately I can't get them locally, and they would be too expensive anyway. So I have to go to Costco. But also at the same time, like Costco, you look at their business plan and what they do and how they treat their employees and stuff like that, you know, really, really well, you know, and pay them a livable wage and all that other fun stuff. So it's like, all right, if I have to bite the bullet and like support like a big company, I try to, you know, you pick your battles, you know, you can't do it all the time, but it's like, all right, I'm going to buy gloves from Costco, it's going to be at a better price, you know, and this, that, the other thing. So I mean, you pick and choose your battles. But like, fortunately here in like Nokomis, there's a lot of those local stuff things that you can get, you know, for the most part. And I don't know, it just feels good. And you know, the money is just cycling through each other, you know, which is like really, really awesome. And I don't know, I really like this community.
Hey, we're going to take an unscheduled break.
All right, you all situated with your camera now?
I am good. So we talked about money going out of the community. You made the point that the money stays local, and then I think we were going to start talking about challenges, because you had alluded to some of the challenges before.
Okay, challenge. As far as challenges, there are a lot with owning a small business. I mean, it's like it's just insane. Like permits, you know, all, you know, between permits, all that stuff. And Minneapolis is not lightweight at all about like there's like a fee that I pay every year that's like $50 to $100, and I have no idea
No idea
why
what
I
it's
pay
for.
it. Yeah, no, I've even called them. I'm like, what is this for? And they're like, well, because it's for contaminated water. And it's like, we're a tattoo shop, we don't contaminate water. Like, what are you talking? And they're like, well, every other tattoo shop pays that, so you have to pay it too. And it's like I said, it's $50 to $100. It's not the hill I'm going to die on, but it's like, but there's a lot of stuff like that. Like we get man, there's just so many things when you live in but when you own a business in a major city like Minneapolis, even though Minneapolis is obviously not big as Atlanta or New York or Chicago or whatever. Yeah, but you like run into all these fees, and they lay them on you, you know. But it's like, so that's a big struggle. But then also at the same time, I'm a person who like feels very blessed that we get so much more out of our money in Minneapolis. Like when I pay my taxes in Minneapolis, I never feel bad because it's like the lakes, the parks, the bike trails, the snow removal, all these things. You know, the educational system is pretty good here. I know the school board is having their struggles right now, but it's like, you know, you do what you do, you know. It's like, and I don't feel bad about that, but at the same time, it's like, man, can you guys hit me with one more fee?
Well, so one of the reasons I'm really interested in the challenges that local businesses face is because when it comes to supporting your local business, the product or service that you offer isn't always something that I can just buy and support you that way, right? Like, I haven't gotten any tattoos yet. You know, one of these days, I'm sure it'll happen.
I can't wait until you get the collar rocker that says Georgia for life. That's the one that can't wait for you. So.
But but I don't think a lot of people understand the fees and the overhead and all of the hoops you have to jump through just to keep your shop open. And this is a shop that supports the entire community, even not just, you know, the people in the community that get tattoos.
Yeah. Right. Well, we've been pretty lucky, like, because when I was looking at this before, like we got a niche, you know, and plenty of people come outside of, you know, the Nokomis area and Minneapolis and even farther, you know, to get tattooed here, which is great, which is awesome, you know. So it's like with us, I feel like we're in a pretty good position where, you know, it's like, because there was one question you were going to ask, and I might have jumped the gun, that was like, how do you support, you know, how do you support us or whatever? And I was like, supporting us is cool. I mean, people want to get a, you know, a tattoo from us. That is awesome. But like at the same time, right now, I'm more concerned about some of the other businesses in the area. I do not ask those businesses how they're doing too much because I don't think it's my place. But I will say it's like, if you come to Nokomis Tattoo or you come to the area, it's like we have the maps from the business association, and it just like has all the businesses on there. And it's like, I think it's more important to me right now that Jerome doesn't get a tattoo, but Jerome like supports the other small businesses that might be really struggling in this time. And that's what I think is really, really important to me right now, because I don't want to see any of the businesses closed. We've already lost a few, and I don't want to see any more of them closed. And how that directly affects me is like, if there's more abandoned storefronts, you know, on 34th and in Nokomis East, when my clients come here, they're gonna be like, oh, I don't know about where Mike is tattooing now, you know. So it's like, that's how that directly affects me. So like, I really, really encourage everybody, like, you know, like, support us. That's great, I appreciate it. But like right now, I think like supporting those other businesses, because they're the ones who struggled so much in the last year, and their restrictions are so tight, you know. And especially you look at like some of those restaurants, but it's not limited to them. Those margins are so slim already. And if you don't support them, you know, like they might go under. But then there's the other part where it's like, man, like just Nokomis, like I get all hyped about it, and I think some people get annoyed about it. But I mean, it's like, I see things all the time here where I'm like, this neighborhood is really, really effing cool. It is, you know. See, and it's where it's a big struggle for me. And speaking of another struggle, but it's like, it's, you know, it's like when the stuff went down and the stimulus checks got kicked out, like an older senior citizen guy went into Grande Sunrise and endorsed half of his check, his stimulus check, and just gave it to Grande Sunrise.
Really?
Yeah, it was like crazy. And I had to tell them, like, Roberto posted it on Instagram, and I was like, hey, Roberto, that's really awesome. But you gotta X out the routing number on the check. Yeah. Like, and he's like, oh, I didn't even think about that. But it's like, but he was so excited, and I was excited for him. And then there's like, so there's like all that cool stuff that's going on with businesses, and we all know each other, we all care about each other, you know. I mean, like a lot of the business owners, they're not going to probably get a tattoo from me, but some of them do. And like, it's really, really cool. And then like, you look at like that ice carousel that guy Ben made. I mean, it's just like, we are really, really lucky to be in Nokomis East, because I think that, like, I don't know, just like a lot of people who are really community oriented, and I don't think you see that in a lot of areas to this level, you know. So
But I think I think we do have a lot of people who make those individual choices to better their community, to support their local businesses or what have you. And yeah, you keep saying luck. But I think, I think you and your work, and you're pretty vocal on social media about supporting the community. You're really advertising this neighborhood. So you're bringing in the kind of people who care about the kind of work that you're doing, and I think it's just like a positive cycle, like a positively reinforcing cycle. You do good things, good people come, they do good things, and it's not something that can't exist in other places. You just have to make the individual choices. Make you and your group of friends can decide that you're going to support, your local restaurant over, I don't know, the chain down the street, right? Like,
and it's one of those things that, like, where like you always pick and choose your battles, like I buy a pretty good amount of shoes from Nokomis Shoes. They're right across the street. They've been super awesome, but like, I like to buy American made products as much as possible, and they don't always have the American made shoes that I want, so I might end up going somewhere else, and like, but that's okay, and it's like supporting it. And like with the luck thing, it's like a lot of times I'll say that it's luck because I know I'm extremely lucky.
Sure.
I know, and I know that some of this stuff is planned, and a bunch of it is like planned out, and the pieces fell together in the right way or whatever. But I do say luck all the time, because there's so many times in my life where, let's say that like just take this for instance. What I got charged with 2 felonies once.
Okay.
And those got dropped down to misdemeanors, thank God, and they got expunged. Now, if I got convicted of those, how would my life have changed? And that's luck. That's definitely luck. Where like some of my friends weren't that lucky. They got that felony, and they were good people too, but now their options and their opportunities in their life are very lessened. So, and it's a lot of the stuff a lot of the stuff I do always say luck, because I know I'm extremely lucky, and some of it is planned, but I also prefer to use like the term luck all too often, because I think I've seen too many people sit there and like be like, it's me, and I just don't like that.
Okay.
I don't like that at all. It's like, it's not how I was raised. It's not like, there's been many times that I've been like knocked down and humbled, and I don't forget those things. I mean, I remember like one time, there's like one of the most humbled acts I ever have gone through my life is I was getting my portfolio critiqued by a woman named Dawn Cook, who's just like an amazing tattooer in Michigan. I just got tattooed by her, and she ripped my portfolio apart.
I'm sorry.
No, it was good. That's what I wanted. And like, that drive from Ann Arbor, Michigan to Erie was like a really, really, really tough one. And it made me question if I wanted to still tattoo, and if I was going to like take the lessons, and step it up. And and it was humbling, and it was like good as my development as a tattoo artist, as an artist, as an individual. So that's the way that I want to try to live my life as best I can. I'm not the best tattooer, you know,
Sure.
I'm not the best person, you know, but I'm just trying to do the best I can. And I'm not no angel by any stretch of the imagination. Like people who are like looking for someone who's like, you know, like trying to look up to me. It's like, man, like, because I've had that happen a bunch of times. I'm like, man, like I'm full of flaws, and there's more to come. You know, it's like I'm far from perfect. All I try to do is the best that I can, and like give back to my community. You know,
That's a lot to look up to. That's good advice for anybody, I would say. Um, Along the lines of of that luck thing, I think it's really interesting because we have kind of a similar but differing philosophy on it. Because I'm of the opinion that the bad luck, the bad things are gonna happen that are outside of your control. But you just gotta keep plowing forward, keep doing the hard work, keep persevering despite it, right? And so I think our work ethic and our philosophies like take us to a similar place, but our journey to get there is just a little different.
yeah, it's hey, I think also, I don't know, there's just one thing that I was thinking about too, is like on the struggle part of it too. I mean, like I've really tried to go the distance to like hire good people for the shop, but then also like having it be as diverse as it can. And that's a real struggle sometimes, because it's like, you know, because it's like, you know, it's like, how do you do that? And it hasn't always worked. I mean, there's plenty of people I've hired where you know, it just didn't work. But like lately, it seems like it's really pulled together, and I'm really happy that our staff is pretty diverse. I wouldn't mind if it was a little bit more diverse, but at the same time, it's, you know, it's like, and I feel blessed about that, you know, and it's like that's a direct change of that I can have an effect, you know, where it's like, all right, you know, like I'm going to go the distance to like see if we can find the right person who happens to be a woman or happens to be, you know, a person of color, you know, or like whatever. But, you know, at the same time, like, you know, it's just that the many hats you wear as a business owner, and like, you know, it's like I got to work on my tattoos and get them better, my art, this, that, the other thing, and then I have to like motivate the people in the right direction so they feel that they can thrive too, and that's sometimes like hard, you know. So
I am right there with you. Just recently, I was looking through our Instagram account for the podcast, looking at our guests, and I was like, there are some people missing on here that you would think I would have, that you think would have just kind of naturally gravitated to be a guest here. And I was like, well, Jerome, you're just going to have to work a little bit harder to make sure that you're presenting really like actually diverse viewpoints on the show. So it is work, and it's on top of everything else.
so yeah, I knew it. I knew there was a reason why you had me on. You're like, I'm gonna find the one person who has a beard with multiple colors.
We needed the multicolored beard.
I was gonna dye it purple the other day, but then we had a meeting with another dog rescue, and I remember last time I dyed my beard, like it screwed me up. I was like high, like I was like, so I was like, all right, I'm not gonna dye it before I go into this meeting because that is gonna be a nightmare. So I haven't got to change it, but soon enough it'll be purple. But
soon enough,
yeah, I'll make sure that I'll post it, and then I'll send it to you so you can, you know, do whatever you want with it.
You know what, Mike? We'll probably end this conversation here with this color beard, but maybe you can come back and talk to us again with the purple beard in the future, and we can see exactly.
Or maybe no beard too. You never know.
Oh.
So full of surprises. Jerome, I do want to state thanks for having me on here. It means a lot to me, and I really, when we were both part of the neighborhood board, I really appreciated how you ran it. I really like it's like, even when I was looking at the rundown when you gave the the timeline or whatever you want to call it, and I was like, oh, some things don't change. He's right on the which is really, really awesome. And there was like, also when we were on the neighborhood board, there was times where you like, there was one thing that like I was like, you know what, that's a challenge that I can meet. And I remember you're like, the members of the business or the neighborhood association should be more mindful about
Sustainability.
Yeah, so it's like, you live in the neighborhood, can you walk to these meetings? Are you in that position, or can you ride your bike? And I remember when you put that out there, it's like, it was kind of reading between the lines and stuff, but I was like, you know what, I could bike to this, I could do this. And then that's what I did. And it's like, those cool ideas that you put on the ether like that, I think is really, really cool. So it's like, and I definitely really appreciate that you and Aaron are in the neighborhood and stuff. I think that it's been awesome. So
I'm really glad that has grown to appreciation, because as I recall at the time, you had just maybe souped up your car or something, and you're like, I just want to drive my cool car.
yeah, the one that was killing my back. Yeah, no, like that's it's like I said before, I come from this working class, my folks were bikers from the 60s, and it's like, like, I pick my battles and stuff, and it's like, but then it's like, you know what, I want to drive a Dodge Charger. I want to go 0 to 100 in like a second on the highway underneath the safest situations possible. So, but yeah, it was like, I enjoyed that car. Both of the Chargers that I owned, I enjoyed both of them, but they were killing my back slowly. And now everybody gets a laugh because now Mike is in a minivan. So, and it doesn't kill my back. So
that's good.
And it definitely doesn't go 0 to 100 in like a week. So, it's like, I think the closest I've gotten, I think I went like 70 on it once. And it's like, wow, this is definitely a step down, but I like it a lot more because I'm not screaming 10 minutes into my drive because of my back. So
That's good.
Well, but yeah, I mean, it was cool. Yeah.
Well, everybody, if you're in the Nokomis area and you see a bearded man in a minivan, maybe purple, maybe multicolored, just wave and say hi to your local business owner. Thank you, Mike. This was awesome.
All right. Thank you, Jerome. I always appreciate you. So,
woo.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for joining in the conversation today. If you would like exclusive access to live streams of these conversations and to a community of people to converse with on topics like the one that we discussed here today, then join our Patreon community at patreon.com/bottomlesscoffee. Bottomless Coffee Podcast is produced by me, Jerome Evans, on social media everywhere as @Jerome T. Evans. Our Patreon producers are listed in the episode description. You can connect with the podcast on Instagram at Bottomless Coffee Podcast. Our website is bottomlesscoffeepodcast.com, and our music is by Noir et Blanc Vie and God Mode. Thanks all.